Finally got my hands on Absolu Noir by Atralia. They've been actually doing really, really well. Their Amazonas fragrances are what really, to me, put them on the map. And now they've like expanded to a bunch of other fragrances that thankfully, this is actually sent to me by Atralia. They sent me a bunch of other fragrances too, but I've been seeing this all over the place. So let's go and open it up and see what it smells like. See if it actually is what everyone says it is. Here is the bottle. The glasswork is actually very well done. It's actually got a nice heft to it. It doesn't seem like cheap at all, even though the price point says otherwise, but this is very nice so far. All right, let's see what it smells like. See if it is, you know, similar to that one thing that everyone says it's similar to. Okay, yes, it is. Definitely Absolu Aventus. Yeah, honestly, it smells very similar to it. I think actually, so obviously Hawas Black came out well after the fact, but it has like hints of that, which I mean, Hawas Black is also kind of like, the people say that actually is like an Absolu Aventus, like inspired by fragrance, but this does it more smoky, more oak mossy, more green, something like, not overly sweet, not overbearingly warm or anything like that, but definitely on that Absolu Aventus. You've got that like nice like pineapple black currant kind of feel to it. You got a nice like warmth to it, which is what really like sets that apart. You got that woodiness in there too. You got that oak mossy in there too. Right now, very enjoyable. Like, it's like off the top of my head, it smells 1-to-1. Obviously I'd have to like kind of test both of them out like separately, but so far it's impressing very well. Alright, so after smelling it a bit more, looking up the notes, and also comparing it next to Absolu Aventus, the biggest difference between this and Absolu Aventus is a watermelon note. This has a watermelon note, and it also has like a leathery accord in there too, both of which are not in Absolu Aventus, and you can actually kind of tell the difference whenever you put them side by side. Like off the top of your head, no one's gonna know that there's a difference, but like when you smell it side by side, you definitely get it. Also, the ginger is missing in this. And you can really tell when you put it side by side too. There's a certain brightness and freshness that's kind of like in Absolu Aventus that's not in this one, which is not a bad thing. This definitely does its own thing, especially because it has that watermelon, and I know the differences, but the main thing being that watermelon in there and the leathery aspect in there too. Obviously Absolu Aventus smells much higher quality, but I mean, this, especially considering like the massive price difference, like literally 1/10 of the price that this goes for compared to that one, and it's also not limited edition, so you got that going for it too. I mean, it kind of like it. I don't see why you would get that one over the other one unless you're like a collector like myself. Not really a big reason to get it. It still smells good, still has the same scent profile, still smells, you know, similar enough. And again, it kind of does its own thing. It has its own identity because it has a certain differences. Again, mainly that watermelon note. Overall, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. The main reason is because like it does come off a little synthetic, probably because of that watermelon. I'm not a huge lover of watermelon, but especially because like the first thing I thought of whenever I smelled this was that Absolu Aventus. It did give off that scent. It's just as enjoyable as that, except obviously the quality is not as much as the other one. And also there's a slight difference. It's still, you know, it's still going to be an attention-grabbing one. It's still going to be a mass appealing kind of fragrance. It's still going to be one of those that is going to set you apart from everyone around you, period. Just, you know, that watermelon is the main difference, and that's what I'm not a huge fan of, but I can still appreciate everything that this fragrance kind of brings to the table. I can see how everyone's going to love it, and that's why I'm giving it that 8 out of 10. So guys, especially because this is pretty cheap, especially here on TikTok Shop, I get my hands on it, especially if you're starting a collection, you kind of want to get a taste of Absolu Aventus, but you don't have the money because obviously it's super friggin' expensive. Honestly, I'd spend your money on this just as good, except, you know, a little slightly different.